Hi everyone, hope you're all okay and had a great Easter. I just want to go through a few things that I believe need to be spoken about. I think they're very important. It's to do with police and their powers, what they can and cannot, should and shouldn't be doing. As I see it, knowing the law surrounding policing, and this is very important. I'm not going to go through everything, but I just think that these particular issues that I want to bring to your attention, you need to know, you need to understand, and I will put them in the comment section so you can refer to them at any time. Screenshot, print them, do whatever you need to do. The first thing that I want to discuss is, if you do encounter a police officer, which a lot of people are now, ask to see their warrant card. This is genuine. A police officer on duty should always carry their warrant card. Ask to see the warrant card. It should say police constable. That's very important that it says police constable, because a police officer will not be written on that warrant card. It will say police constable. Why is that important? Because when that constable swears their oath, when they are first appointed in the role of constable by any of the police forces, they swear an oath, and that oath is to serve the Queen, the people, not the government. Nowhere on that oath does it say they will and should serve the government. It also says that they will uphold the fundamental human rights of every person, and they will prevent all offences against people and property to the best of their ability, without fear or favour, without interference, and independent of government. That's very important, that you speak to a police constable and politely and respectfully ask to see their warrant card, and it should say police constable on there. When the Queen came to power in June of 1953, at her coronation, she too swore an oath. She swore an oath, and she agreed to maintain the laws and the laws of God. And she agreed to protect the Commonwealth and respect the Church. She agreed that in her coronation ceremony back in June of 1953. To maintain the laws of God and to protect the Church and the laws of the Church. Nowhere in there does she say that she will fully support the government. If the government are doing wrong and they're breaking the law, she will not support that. And the government are answerable to the Queen, and the police serve the Queen and the people. So why is that important? We all have inalienable rights. We are born with these rights. We are given to them the day that we first take air. What are these rights that we are given when we are born? They're not given to us by the Queen. They're not given to us by the police or by the government. They're given to us by God Almighty. Whether you believe in him or whether you don't, or her, God could be a woman, or a being, whatever you believe, whatever your religious beliefs or your faith, these rights are given to you as soon as you are born, and they cannot be taken away by anyone. These rights are a right to life, to freedom, and to the pursuit of happiness. The right to contract or not contract, and please forgive me, I am reading. This isn't all coming from memory. So I do keep looking down because I'm reading from my notes here. You have a right to earn a living for wages. That right is being taken away, and that's illegal. They can't do it. You are born with that right to go out and earn a living and put food on the table for you and your family. And nobody can stop you from doing that. What they are doing, the government and the police, is wrong. It's unlawful. It's your inalienable right, and they cannot take it away. You have the right to travel. They're now taking that away, or trying to, or implying that they can. Privacy and confidentiality. All these QR apps, QR codes, passports for health, wanting to know your details when you walk into a shop and put your phone number, goes against your inalienable rights. Wrong. Unlawful. Can't do it. It's not private and it's not confidential. To self-defense, to protect you from harm, loss or deceit. You have that right the day you are born. You also have that right in law to protect yourself from harm, from injury, from loss or from deceit. You also have a right to remain silent. You do not need to speak. Nobody anywhere can force you to speak. And despite what people think, if the police talk to you, you can stand there and say nothing. Nothing they can do. Equality in law. So everybody's treated the same in law. Doesn't matter who you are, what your status, colour, creed, religious beliefs, gender, age, disability, rich or poor, government or non-government, police officer or civilian. We are all equal. Peaceful association, including protest. We have a right to protest, folks. They can't take that away from us. But they're trying to, but they can't. We were born with these rights. To practice our religious beliefs and our religion, independently or as a group. Did you see what happened in the church in South East London over Easter weekend by 2 police officers? That was horrific. That was awful. That should never have happened. And those 2 police officers should be reprimanded. Those people were doing nothing wrong except using their inalienable rights to pray to their God as they see fit. Shame on those police for doing that. That was really disgusting. That made me very angry, and a lot of people very angry, and rightly so. You have a right to security from tyranny and war. We're currently at war whether we like it or not, and the tyranny is our own government. So our rights are being breached by our own government, and we are at war. And the cause of that war is the government who are there, and they're supposed to protect us from it. To live in peace, to be left alone when you're law-abiding. If you are not causing anybody any harm, injury, loss or damage to their property, or causing a breach of the Queen's peace, you are not breaking the law, and they have to leave you alone. This is very important. You have total bodily integrity without exception. Nobody can force you to do anything to your body that you don't want them to do. No coercion, no blackmail, no threats of violence, no threats of a fine or imprisonment, no forced quarantine. If you don't want to do it to your body, medication, food, whatever you want, that is your choice and nobody else's. And these rights are very important because they're yours and yours alone, and nobody can take them away from you. You're born with them. A police constable's job is to protect you from harm, injury, loss or damage to your property, and to maintain the Queen's peace, as I've already said. Not to issue fines for a corporation, which is the British government. This is illegal, it's unlawful. It's not their job. A jury decide if you are innocent or if you are guilty. A jury, 12 good men and women, your peers, your equals in society. And if they decide you are guilty, the punishment will be given out by the adjudicator, who we call a judge. The police can't threaten you with a £200 fine. They can't issue a £200 fine. They are, but they shouldn't, and it's wrong, immoral, unlawful and illegal. They are acting on behalf of the government, which they should not do because they are impartial, independent, because they swore their oath to the Queen and the people, not to Her Majesty's government, Her Majesty's government. If you go into the parliamentary library on the internet, it's publicly available information, type in 9024 Parliamentary Library. Open this document. It's the powers that the police have or don't have in relation to the coronavirus legislation. If you scroll down to section 3.5, it tells the police, it tells the government in writing, there are no powers to stop people and ask them to account for their movements, especially under the COVID Act. That power has never been there, never been given, and they should not be doing it. If you're in your vehicle, walking, on a bus, on a train, going about your business lawfully, and they stop and ask you to account for what you're doing and where you're going, they can't. They don't have that power to do it. And remind them that they don't have that power, and show them this document that they don't have that power. They are abusing their authority. Another very important part of this legislation and in law is you have a right to remain silent. That's your inalienable right. It's also in law, written in law of the land, and it's also part of this legislation. A recent court case at Cardiff Crown Court, Neil versus the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions, February 2021. The court ruled in favour of Neil. There is no statutory obligation under the COVID Act for you to give your name and address to the police. So to have to give it or to be forced to give it is wrong and illegal. That power does not exist, and it never existed. And that is a stated case, and it's recent. You don't have to talk. You don't have to give your name and address. Stated case and law. The COVID Act does not supersede the human rights, your human rights. This is very important too, because when the constables swore that oath, they swore to uphold fundamental human rights, yours and mine, and every other citizen in the United Kingdom. And that oath was sworn to the Queen, and that Queen swore to abide by the law. And our human rights cannot be taken away under this legislation. So Article 11 of the Human Rights Act, freedom of peaceful assembly and association including protest, is a given under this Act, just as it is under the inalienable rights that we were born with. So they can't take it away. The travel restrictions that are being imposed. If you look inside the first page of your passport, it says the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, says that we can travel. And it says, and I quote, all these whom it may concern, to allow the bearer to pass freely without let or hindrance, and to afford the bearer such assistance and protection as may be necessary. The Queen is saying that we can travel freely and nobody can stop us. The same Queen who swore to uphold the law of the land by the police officers who swore an oath and allegiance to the Queen and to protect our fundamental human rights. There's nothing in there that talks about the government. Nothing. So they have no right and no power. Our passports say that we can. Our passports are still valid. Nobody's turned around and said, your passport is no longer valid. Still a legal document. Still gives us the permission from the Queen to travel. The Queen hasn't written to me and said, Max Sexton, you can't travel, sign this document in wet ink. I haven't signed to agree not to travel in wet ink and sent it back to her. This is a request from Boris and the government. You don't have to accept it. As a citizen, we all have the power to arrest anyone, any person, committing or has just committed an indictable offence. Indictable means serious. Section 24A of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act of 1984 gives us this power. We can do, it's called a citizen's arrest, if there is no police present. You can use reasonable force in law, and you must tell them why they are under arrest. Obviously, don't be arresting people for dropping litter. It has to be serious: assault, burglary, serious crime, murder, attempted murder. I'm talking serious offences. So the police are not above the law. They enforce the law and they abide by the law, the same laws that we abide by. So if they try to arrest you for refusing to talk, refusing your name and address, refusing to answer where you're going, and they threaten to arrest you or issue you with a £200 fine, or lay hands on you and threaten to falsely imprison you, this is an unlawful act. It's against the law. They're committing an offence. It's actually a crime in law. And they're also in breach of their oath. They are then committing an offence called misconduct in public office. You've probably heard of this before, a lot, quite recently. This is a serious offence with a penalty maximum of life in prison. That's how serious this offence is. The offence is a public officer acting as such willfully neglects to perform their duty and or willfully misconducts themselves to such a degree as to amount to an abuse of the public's trust in the office holder, without reasonable excuse or justification. Following unlawful orders is not a reasonable excuse or justification. Explain this to the constables. If they continue, they are breaking the law. Therefore, they're committing an offence, a criminal offence, and you as a citizen have the power to arrest these people. If there are two police officers present, ask the other police officer, please arrest this police officer who's now breaking the law and committing an offence of misconduct in public office. They are committing an indictable offence. If that other police officer refuses to make that arrest, they too are committing this offence, because they are willfully failing to perform their duty. And that's very important. And I don't expect everybody to go out there this week and start laying hands on police officers and arresting them and throwing them to the floor. But knowledge is power. And this knowledge is very important, because it's your power as a member of the public. The police are not above the law, but they are breaking the law. The government are there by consent. We, all of you and me, give them that consent. It's a gentleman's agreement, a contract that we give with conditions. Those conditions are the same as the ones that we give to the police. We give them the consent to police with conditions. What are those conditions? We don't cause any harm, injury, loss or damage to any person or their property. As long as we don't do that, they can police. As long as they govern us properly and they hand out the taxes fairly, proportionately, transparently, and they represent the people fairly to the best of their ability, that agreement stays in place. When they start to breach these agreements, which the government is doing and the police are doing, we remove that consent because we're giving it to them. They are not above us. They are not our masters. We are not their servants. We employ and we empower them. We pay them with our taxes, with our money. It's not government money. It's not the government who's giving us furlough. It's not the government who's paying for the hospitals. It's not the government who pays child benefit. It's you and me with our tax. And we give them that authority. We vote them in. And they're failing us. So they need to be removed. They're not doing their job anymore. No government is above the people. They govern for the people, by the people. And that's very important. And the same goes for the police. It's all about consent, our consent. They are taking liberties. They are abusing their authority. They are abusing their power. They are committing serious criminal offences. And we're letting them do it. And they'll keep doing it because we're letting them do it. Stop them from doing it. Take away their consent. They have no power to control us with fear. Where we can go, where we can't go, who we can see, who we can meet, when we can travel, when we can run our business, when we can go shopping. It's none of their business. It's up to us. We're free. But we're consenting to allow them to imprison us. Say no. You're all agreeing to do this. Stop agreeing. Who do they think they are? Really, who do these people think they are? They're made of flesh, skin and bone and blood, and they breathe the same oxygen as you and me. And they're trying to take away everything that we have. Why? I never voted for the New World Order. I never voted for the Great Reset. I never voted for the World Economic Forum. I never voted for the World Health Organization or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Did you? Did any of you know about this before March 2020? The Great Reset? Because this is what this is all about. Agenda 21, 2030. The United Nations Sustainable Development. They're bringing it in whether we like it or not. Every government in the world are doing this. And any government who dares goes against this narrative or the agenda, well, those poor 4 presidents in Africa are all deceased in the last 6 months. I wonder why. And the Belarus president is having a tough time. I wonder why. We didn't vote for them. We're democratic. We vote. We decide. We decide. These multi-billionaires and these oligarchs and these freak organisations are criminal and evil and nefarious. And we need to say, no, we don't want your plan. Go and play somewhere different with your Davos friends. We're not playing with you Bilderberg people. We don't want it, thank you very much. Go and do it to each other. We didn't vote for them, we don't want them. So stop allowing them to control what we're doing and our lives. Open your business, take off the mask. Live freely, you are free. We are free, we were born free. They've got no power to stop us. If they do it illegal, it's unlawful. Arrest them because they're breaking the law of the land, our law that we give them. We are free living men and women. We are not slaves. We're not in prison. I don't need anybody's permission. I don't need a police officer or a government or a passport or a freedom pass or a freedom passport. I'm already free. These must never come in. There's something else I want to talk about. And some people have started to mention this in Facebook recently. Footballers, movie stars, sports stars, TV people, MPs, where are they? They're still getting their multi-billion-pound contracts, still playing professional football, still doing their music, still making movies, still on TV, still going to Parliament. None of these have lost their businesses or their livelihoods. None of these have lost their houses, like the 70,000 people who have in the last 12 months. Lewis Hamilton's still driving around a track at 200 miles an hour with no fans in the stadiums, no supporters in the concert halls. We're not there and they're still doing it and they're still getting all this money. Why? They don't care about you and me. They're still getting their multi-million pound contracts. Professional footballers getting £300,000 a week with their private yachts, their private jets. They're still going to the gym and getting fit, having the best physio, the best food, travelling around Europe. Absolutely no curtailment of travel. They're going to all the European games. No quarantine hotels when they come back. No testing. No self-isolating. Why are they allowed to do this? Why is all the people with money allowed to do this? Because they've got multi-billion pound contracts to fulfill. And their branding. They've got to keep these promises to all these Adidas and Nike and McDonald's and Barclaycard and Emirates. So we're still paying for Sky. We're still paying for Netflix. We're still paying for the music that we download. Not for us, for our benefit, to pay their multi-billion pound contract and wages, and they're silent. Where are they? None of them are saying, hang on a minute, I'm not playing football anymore. The fans aren't here. If the fans aren't here, I'm not playing. Sorry, we're down in tools. They don't give a damn because they're still getting £300,000 a week. Lewis Hamilton's still getting £5 million a race. Adele's still selling music, and Ed Sheeran. Where are these people to support their people who gave them this money in the first place? They're supporting the agenda, not supporting you and me. Horrific, horrendous. Yes, there are some people who are being really outspoken. Ian Brown, well done you. Right Said Fred Boys, well done you. Jim Davison, well done you. Kirsty, I think it's Kirsty Allsop from the programme on BBC. Well done you today. There are other people who are supporting us. Piers Morgan, shut your mouth. You are an idiot and an imbecile. If you want to take the vaccine, take it. It's only essential when people are rich. If you run a hair salon and you need 10 women or men to come to your salon in one day to make ends meet, to put food on your table, that is essential to pay your bills. You are essential. You're not a multimillionaire, so you're not essential. It's all about keeping the money flow. Money flow one way to the rich. They've made 3.29 trillion. We've lost 3.27 trillion. The rich are getting richer and we are getting poorer. And it's our fault because we keep letting this happen. Stop paying their wages. Stop endorsing their brands. That's all it's about. If we're not watching them on TV, if we're not downloading their music, if we're not looking at these concerts on YouTube, they're not going to make the money. There's going to be no bums on seats, eyes on screens, which is where these people make their money. Stop doing it. Because they're making us look stupid. Because it's one rule for them and one rule for us. They've never supported us since day one. There's no equality. Rich and poor, them and us, bottom line. Two sets of rules. We are being played, lied to, manipulated for a very, very evil, criminal, nefarious agenda. There is no pandemic. So the COVID Act does not exist anymore. All this draconian crap is not warranted anymore. Live your life freely. Say no. Enough is enough. Take your country back. Your country, my country, not theirs. You don't need anybody's permission. God gave it to you the day you were born. The last thing I'm going to say, and this is very, very important, and everybody should wake up and listen to this. They are coming for our children. August, they're going to start vaccinating our children. Then what? Mums and dads, aunts and uncles, grandmas and granddads, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbours. Then what when our children start dying, just as normal people are, of all ages, all around the world from these evil vaccines. Do not let them take our children. There is no need. This is evil. It's not necessary. Don't let them experiment with our children with an evil gene therapy. You really, really must stop this, people. Use the law. It's there for them, just as it is for you. It's there for you, just as it is for them. It's not them and us. We are all one. We are all equal in the eyes of the law and in the eyes of God. We have rights. They cannot take them away. We have the law, God, inalienable rights, our human rights, and we give them the consent. Take that consent away from these psychopaths before it's too late. And that time is coming very, very soon. This is year 2 of a 10-year plan, and it's going to get a hell of a lot worse if people don't stop this. Thank you for listening. I hope you're all okay.